Hey guys, welcome back. Pastor Kevin here. I hope you've been enjoying this series, Letters from Lockdown, written by the Apostle Paul. Now, Paul is in prison and he's writing to the church. He's writing to the church in Philippians, Ephesians, Colossians, and Philemon. And he's writing to build up the church, to encourage the church, and to prepare the church. Why? Because Paul loved the church. Now, Paul, through his ministry, thousands of people came to know Jesus. And it was his mission to tell as many people as possible. And so in these letters, now that the church is together, he's telling them things that they need to know to be followers of Jesus and to live a righteous life. And one of the things he says in his letter in Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14, he says this: "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. And over all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." I love that. You know, wherever you guys are today, I want you to know that you are chosen by God to be His people. He loves you. He wants the best for you. And Paul writes three things that really stand out to me in this passage. And the first one is this. He says, clothe yourself. Clothe yourself in compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Now, I love the fact that he uses the word clothe. To clothe yourself. Or in other translations it says to put on. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the first things I do in the morning is I have to choose what I'm going to put on. What am I going to wear today? And maybe not in a physical sense, but what Paul is saying in a spiritual sense, we have to choose to put on these virtues, to put on gentleness, to put on compassion, to put on patience. And it's a choice. It's a choice. Why should you choose to put on these things? Because God first chose you. Now, that's the second thing that Paul reminds us of, is that you are chosen by God. God literally picked you out and said, I want you to be my son. I want you to be my daughter. In fact, he says, you are God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. Not only are you chosen, but you are dearly loved by God. Isn't that amazing? I've seen those videos on YouTube where the father gives their son or their daughter this package for Christmas or for a birthday, and they open it up and their adoption papers, and there's just so much joy. You know, that's the joy I get when I realize that I'm adopted by God, that I am in His family now. But now the third point that Paul writes in this letter is to encourage us. He says to bear with one another. To put up with one another, in other words. To forgive one another when you guys aren't getting along. You know, one thing that Paul knows is that he's writing to a huge group of people. And they're from all different backgrounds, from different races, from different ethnic groups. And he knows that they're not all going to see eye to eye. They're not always going to get along. But he knows that there's one common denominator, and that's Jesus. And it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter what you look like. If you choose Jesus, you're choosing the right thing. If you have something against somebody else, he says, let it go. Forgive them. Why? Because Jesus has forgiven you. Why do we show compassion? Because Jesus has shown you compassion. Why should we be patient? Because Jesus has been patient with you. Why should we be kind? Because Jesus has been kind to us. You know what causes us not to live in those virtues? Compassion, kindness, gentleness, patience, fear. Fear will keep you from being those things. But it says in 1 John chapter 4, verse 18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. It also says in 1 John chapter 4, verse 8, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. So this is what I want to encourage you to do today. I want you to choose Jesus. I want you to choose to walk in His love. Walk in His compassion. Walk in His patience. Walk in His kindness. And I know that you're cooped up in your house right now, but there are ways that you can show kindness. There are ways that you can be patient with people. I know that every time I see a family of like 12 out and you're supposed to be in your house, I get, just a little angry, and I just have to say, hey, you know what? It's okay. I'm okay. God will watch over me. God will take care of me. And it just helps me to have more patience with people. Helps me to have more compassion for people. And so I want to encourage you with that. Be compassionate. Be kind. Be loving. And choose to put on love.